Let's start this with a prayer. Dear Father, I thank you for this day and this opportunity to be used as a vessel to let your people know you are available, able, and ready in the name of Yeshua from Nazareth. Before we cut this bread, I just want to let you know, when I get the bread, I let him run it down on me first. I listen to it, and whatever the Holy Spirit, it will literally grab my, whoa, let me figure this out. So like I told you yesterday, we're going through Ezekiel, and we're on 20. Ezekiel 20:10-15 says, "So I brought them out and led them into the desert. I gave them my laws and teachings so they would know how to live right. And I commanded them to respect the Sabbath as a way of showing that they were holy and belonged to me. But the Israelites rebelled against me in the desert. They refused to obey my laws and teachings, and they treated the Sabbath like any other day. Then in my anger, I decided to destroy the Israelites in the desert once and for all, but that would have disgraced me because many other nations had seen me bring the Israelites out of Egypt. Instead, I told them in the desert that I would not lead them to the beautiful, fertile land I had promised." Yo, there's so much, everything in this, it's nuts. Now, when I used to listen to people talk about the Bible or anything in Israel or the wilderness, it never applied to me until I started squatting in the wilderness, hobo status, I'm coming with my little bag of issues and I'm just gonna set up in the wilderness. And the Most High is no, this isn't about you. This is about me and who I am. And in 12, when he says, "I commanded them to respect the Sabbath as a way of showing that they were holy and belonged to me," there are certain things that he attributes to us being set apart and set aside. Also, God ain't emotional. I'm emotional. And I have to see this, certain things will produce certain emotions in me. And because I was chilling in the wilderness for so long, I became numb to certain things. I acclimated myself to the environment and the conditions that I was exposed to. Harsh, no fertile land, no milk and honey flowing. None of that was happening in the wilderness. And the wilderness is supposed to be the place for you to get it all out. I know nobody really watches these videos, and I really don't care. But because I was setting up idols, so in the New Living Translation, it says, in 13, it says, "But the people of Israel rebelled against me, and they refused to obey my decrees there in the wilderness. They wouldn't obey my regulations, even though obedience would have given them life. They also violated my Sabbath days, so I threatened to pour out my fury on them. I made plans to utterly consume them in the wilderness. But again, I held back in order to protect the honor of my name before the nations who had seen my power in bringing Israel out of Egypt. I took a solemn oath against them in the wilderness. I swore I would not bring them into the land I had given them, a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful place on earth." So he's saying, follow my plans and my decrees, right? "I am Yahweh, your Elohim." These are the 10 Commandments. "Never have any other gods. Don't make any carved idols or statues that represent any creature in the sky or on the earth or in the water. Never worship them or serve them. So don't have nobody else before me. Never use the name of Yahweh, your Elohim, carelessly. Yahweh will make sure that anyone who uses his name will be punished. Remember the day of worship by observing it as holy. Honor your mother and father so that you may live a long time. Never murder, never commit adultery, never steal, never lie when you testify about your neighbor. Never desire to take your neighbor's household away from him. Never desire to take your neighbor's wife, his male or female slave, his ox, donkey, or anything else that belongs to him." You know how hard that is? Keep Yahweh as number one. Don't have any idols. And listen, I had a relationship that was an idol. I had problems that were idols. I had subscriptions to issues that he was trying to be look, you were about to make me snap. When you were in bondage, you were crying and begging because I had been depressed for a long, long time. Lord, bring me out, bring me out. Now I'm in the wilderness and I'm wilding out. I'm going through the season that I'm going through of him like getting all of this, because obviously I can't give up stuff myself, because if that was the case, I would have been in a better situation, not going through what I go through. I put myself in a situation and I end up getting burnt because he was like, either you want to be part of my all-consuming fire, or I'm going to let your evil deeds consume you with this fire. It's your choice. Like, this isn't some dictatorship. It's a free will democracy. I have a say in this. I have a say in my healing. I have a say in how long I stay in the wilderness. I have a say in all of those things. But nobody ever tells us that, or even the fact that God is justified in his anger, because do you know how much God has invested in me and how I have kicked and bucked the whole way? Like, I don't want to go. Go where? A place where I can get healed and be better? No, God, I don't want to do that. It's going to hurt too much. Oh, but staying in the pain and running around with the nonsense in your mind and in your heart has clouded your judgment. You ain't keeping me first. You ain't loving me. You ain't. And I gave you stuff that if you lived according to these rules, my commandments, lived in obedience, you won't live. What did it say? Obedience would have given them life in 13. God is so good. He doesn't move off of his emotions, because I know for sure that I've been ticked him off. Like, prime example, this morning, I told my daughter to change her clothes. I said, put this and this on. She goes and she puts a coat on. And I'm ready to walk on. I'm like, nah, go back there and change your clothes. We all go downstairs. We get in the car. We're going to be late for school. All of that. And I can hear the frustration from my other two daughters in the back seat, like, oh, she's taking forever. And I use this as a teachable moment. Like, isn't it easier when you just obey the command that I gave you right away? Like, just change the first time and do it right, versus having to go back and do it again and again and again. They're like, yeah, but this is so frustrating because we're going to be late. I'm like, oh, so someone's playing with your time. Someone's playing with your emotions because now you're feeling angry. And then my daughter finally comes out. Didn't even change correctly. Just threw on anything. Didn't care. This is my, I'm going to skate through life kid. It's me. It's me. And I said, you know how you get to a place where your words are powerful? You use love. And when you're correcting somebody, like, you can be angry, but don't let that define who you are or how you move. And I'm not just speaking to my kids, but I'm speaking to me too, because this is how the Most High does it. Like, I told you to change out of that depression. I told you to change out of that rage. I told you to change out of that anxiety. Give it to me. Cast your cares. If you follow my commandments, you're going to live well, but you don't want to, and you got to keep going back, and you got to keep going back. And I should punish you in the wilderness. I have this promised land, but I'm not going to give it to you because you ain't ready. Listen, I don't want to waste any more of his time, and I don't want him to wait on me for anything. I want to be ready. He gave me a command. Love him with my whole heart. Don't put anybody else before him. Watch how I treat my parents. Watch how I treat my neighbors. Don't commit adultery. And that's like, I'm not even with nobody right now, but with him, that's faith. That's my everything. I'm not going to fall out on him. He pours his love into me, even though I don't deserve it. And for his name's sake, he does that, because it's like, I promised you stuff. And because you want to take the long way, that's not going to make me fold on what I said I was going to do. We just going to have to go the long way together. Because he told the people that came out of Egypt and into the wilderness to change their ways. They didn't do it, so they couldn't leave. So their descendants had to go through the same thing too. Like, you come out of bondage and you still complaining, like, I don't have this. Like, coming out of a situation where my emotions got the best of me. God, I don't have someone I can talk to. Oh, but you was just trying to talk to him with a pistol. How is that? Like, you don't even move like me. I know. It's crazy. But he gives us certain things, certain rules and regulations to live by so that we can live and we can live well and avoid a lot of unnecessary nonsense. I'm super hard-headed. I have to learn, like, the hard way, unfortunately, because one time isn't enough. But in this season, I'm going to make it enough because I don't want to do me anymore. Doing Tanya has kept me in the wilderness and has kept me from crossing over on this 11-day journey that took 40 years to my promised land. It's that simple. We'll talk about this some more tomorrow. Holla, God.